Good afternoon and good evening and good morning to some of you, and welcome. We will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. We're glad to have you join us. Again, welcome. We will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome to those of you that have just joined. Welcome. We're glad to have you. We will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Again, we're glad to have you. We'll start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome, welcome everyone. Again, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to some of you, depending on where you're dialing in from. We are going to allow others to join us. We'll start it in another couple minutes. I want to start at 2 minutes after the top of the hour so others can join us. While we're waiting, if you'd like, you can go ahead and put into the chat window where you're calling in from, what part of the world are you calling in from. Again, welcome. Thank you, Yan from Washington. Welcome. Thank you. Thanks, Jamie. Redwood is where our home office is in San Jose. So thank you. Sham, Singapore. Thank you. Welcome. Again, we're allowing others just another 30 or 40 seconds so to get in here. Thank you, Jesse. All right, gonna get started. Thank you, Dan from St. Louis. Another San Jose, Maria, great, thank you. Mark from Colorado, thank you. Welcome, welcome everyone. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Again, I'd like to welcome you to our fundamental certification. My name is Odell Gordon. I am a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic. I am dialing in from the Midwest of the US. I'm in Illinois. I'm a suburb of Chicago. And a little bit about my background. I've been in IT for 30 plus years now. I've played several roles, mostly around data. I started out in back when I was long time ago, many moons ago, we called it the data center. So I worked in the data center, and then I moved and graduated, where I considered a graduation, to database design and managing databases. And of course, I got into technical training, and I love and enjoy training. So for the last 15 years of my career, I've been into technical training. So that's my background. Again, I told you I'm from the Illinois, the Chicago suburbs. It's about to get dawn here, but we had a nice day. Hopefully you're somewhere comfortable as well. All right. So let's talk about what we're going to cover in this course. I'm going to give you a 500-foot overview. So I'm going to give you that overview of Sumo Logic so you can get a high level understanding. Then I'll go ahead and demonstrate on monitoring and troubleshooting effort. Okay. Then you and I will have the opportunity to log into our training environment. I'm going to give you credentials that allow you to log into our training environment, and you and I will then view the data that's being collected. We'll then search, parse, and analyze that data. That analysis will allow us to identify trends, and then we'll be able to also identify any critical events that we need to monitor. Then we'll create and modify some dashboards and create some alerts. Then we'll allow you an opportunity, 60 minutes, to go ahead and get certified by taking the fundamentals exam. The benefit of taking the exam right after lecture and labs is that it will be still fresh in your minds. I will be available for that 60 minutes as well. It's an open book, open internet exam. We want you to pass it, okay? Now, again, once you take that exam and certification and you pass it, you of course will can fill out this form. I'll give you the link when we get to the exam. and you fill out this exam, and we'll send you an Uber Eats $15 voucher. So again, we're happy to have you. We want to celebrate your completing the exam. And if you can't take the exam right away, again, it's not something we mandate. Again, it's something that we encourage because of it being fresh in your mind. But you can take the exam at any time. Okay. Right. All right. Let's go ahead and get in here now. Let's talk about how does Sumo Logic help us, you and I. How does it help us? Now I'm going to go ahead and save some bandwidth here and turn off my webcam so you can focus on the slide, and two, focus on the lecture. Okay. So what you're seeing here on this slide here is you're seeing 4 examples of dashboards that can be created in Sumo Logic's continuous intelligence platform. You're going to hear me refer to it as CIP. One of you may ask later on, what is CIP for? And one of you may answer, continuous intelligence platform. Now, as I mentioned way long time ago, again, I was in the data center and I had to go to the Unix console and look for the logs and then issue some grep statements to find out the issues and problems. That's a manual process. Had I had the opportunity back then, or if this tool was created back then, I could have, we could have created a dashboard and found out our operational intelligence. Well, what do you mean find out our operational intelligence, Odell? I mean, we can find out the health of our systems. For example, are all of our systems up and running? Are there any mean times that we have to identify and resolve? So all of that information from an operational perspective, we could have gleaned from a dashboard. You and I can create a dashboard from a security perspective where you and I can find out where are users logging in from around the world. Are there any users logging in simultaneously from multiple locations? That doesn't seem reasonable. Okay, so again, we can glean that type of information from a security intelligence dashboard. From a business perspective, we can find out if we issued a marketing campaign recently, we can find out how successful it was or not. Okay, we can find out what pages are customers frequently viewing. We can find out if customers ordering specific items and what's on hand or not. So again, we can glean that type of information from a business intelligence dashboard. And then finally, from a global perspective, we want to be able to observe our data worldwide. We want to compare our company's data to other companies. So again, we can glean that type of information from a global perspective. As I mentioned, these are 4 examples of dashboards that you can create inside of the continuous intelligence platform. You're wondering, well, Odell, that's great. Those look awesome. But what type of data are we going to use to create those? That's a great question. So all of that machine data that you're collecting, such as your logs, your metrics, your traces, all of that data, whether it's coming from an app or a microservice, or maybe a SaaS service, or maybe it's a mobile device, wherever those logs and metrics and traces are coming from, that machine data, that's what we're going to use to build these dashboards and search through. Okay. Now, what do we offer? Well, we offer analytics. Okay. We're a multi-tenancy environment. We have multiple applications in a cloud-based environment. Okay. If you need to, your company needs to increase or upsize or upgrade or go larger, we're elastic. We'll meet your needs. We're scalable. Okay, if you want to downsize, again, we'll downsize. We'll meet your need. We're a cloud-based environment. Now, you're going to hear me mention about machine learning and advanced analytics. I'm going to point those tools out inside of the continuous intelligence platform. But our tool is continuously learning as well. That's what that machine learning means. Okay. Some companies like to incorporate Sumo into other applications, so they utilize the application programming interface, the APIs. Those are accessible and usable in our tool as well. Pardon me. And then over to the right here, you'll see our certifications. One of our core values is we're in it with our customers. And what we mean is from beginning to end, and we definitely want to emphasize our certifications because security is priority number one with us. Okay, you can see that we're SOC 2 certified, we're FedRAMP certified, we're HIPAA certified. Again, our certifications are very important to us and we maintain them. And then finally, your people. And what we mean by that is you want to be able to achieve continuous collaboration across all lines of your business from a single source with speedy decisions. So the big takeaway from this screenshot, ladies and gentlemen, is one, you can create dashboards in the tool, in the continuous intelligence platform. Okay. Two, we're going to use your logs, your metrics, your traces, that machine data. That's what we're using and we're collecting and going to allow you to search through. Okay. Three, we provide analytics. Okay. Our tool is machine learning. It's always learning. Okay. From what you're doing. Okay. And then finally, four, you can share your findings across all lines of your business. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a monitoring and troubleshooting event. Okay, what I first want to do is talk about this screenshot first. Okay, when you think about monitoring and troubleshooting, first of all, you think about, well, hey, I want to be notified if there's an issue. Okay, so you might want to set up alerts. We have that capability where you can set up alerts. We have the ability for you to set up webhooks to other type of alerting systems. We had Slack, we have Datadog and HipChat. So again, we have a lot of alerting mechanisms for you. So the first step in monitoring is being alerted. Okay. Once you get alerted, you probably want to find out, well, hey, what's going on? Okay. And you do that by looking at your metrics. Your metrics will lead to finding out what's going on. Then once you find out what's going on, you want to find out, well, wait a minute. Why did that happen? And you look at your logs. Your logs are going to tell you why it happened. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a monitoring and troubleshooting. I want to lean on your imaginations for a moment. Okay, I work for a travel company. Okay, and this travel company allows us to book travel. So we can book all types of travel, our air, our car, and our hotel. Okay, and I work for them. All right. Now, what we've done in Travel Logic, which is the name of our company, we've set up Slack as our alerting system. Okay. And when I come into Slack, I can see my production environment. I'm going to click on my production 8 alert. I see it's in bold, so it's notifying me that it's an issue. Okay. When I come down and look at my latest alert, I can see that there was a gateway response time outlier. All right, so something's about response time is a problem. Okay, I can see what time it happened. Okay, now in our Slack alerting, we also set up the ability to open up dashboards. So in this alert, you'll see here, I have the ability to open up my Go Operational Overview dashboard. Now it's going to prompt me to log in because I haven't logged in yet. So let me quickly do that. And I apologize, I should have done that earlier. All right, so it's logging me into the CIP, the Continuous Intelligence Platform. So here's the tool. All right, so Odell, can you give me a little bit of what we're doing? So what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm demonstrating a job that I have. I have to monitor and troubleshoot our travel servers, our travel environment. What I've just done is I've looked at Slack, which is our notification system, and inside of Slack, it told me, hey, there's a problem, there's an outlier. We set up two dashboards to be clicked on. There's an overview and a details. When I clicked on the overview, it brought me into the continuous intelligence platform. Okay, this is where it was actually built. Okay, now what you're seeing here is 12 dashboard panels. So each one of these boxes represents a panel. Each one of these panels has an underlying query. So there's a query underneath it, okay? Now, again, I'll lean on your imagination, okay? I want you to imagine a highway, and I want you to imagine that there's a traffic light on that highway. Green is good, red is bad, yellow is to monitor, kind of, peruse, keep an eye on. Okay, so you and I can take that in our minds and see that. We can see our service nodes look good, our elasticity load balancing looks good, our VPC flows looking good, product service database looking good. But the red, we see we do have some elasticity load balancing issues. There are some job queue issues, and there's some payment service issues, as well as some checkout service issues. Now, again, I'm leaning on your imagination. I want you to think about it. We just came off of the 4th of July, one of the largest travel times we've had since the pandemic, okay? We want to make sure that if users want to use our travel tool to book hotels, airport, and cars, that they don't run into any issues. Well, we can see that there's a checkout service problem. Somebody's not going to get paid, okay? Now, again, I'm demonstrating a monitoring troubleshooting event. One of the features that you can build in our tool, one additional features, is you can build the drill capability. And what I mean by that is I can click on this particular dashboard panel and it'll take me to another dashboard panel. So I'm going to click on my checkout service. It launches my service detail dashboard. Now, let me digress for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. I could have, you could have, we could have easily just clicked on this go to the service detail. We could have clicked on this and that would have taken us straight to here. It's the same thing, okay? Now, in this particular dashboard, ladies and gentlemen, my Travel Logic service detail, which I clicked on from my CPU from the actual overview, I see my bookings. I see, again, there's some issues, it's good, and some more issues, okay? So those are failures. I can see the errors over the last 7 days, see some of my latency some of my latencies, spikes, and peaks. I can see I have some outliers here in my latency averages. I can also see some CPU and memory issues, okay? In our dashboards, you also have the ability to be interactive. And what I mean here is in this here bookings, I can turn off my successes by clicking in the legend for successes. Now I'm only seeing and viewing my failures. So again, that's just a feature I wanted to point out to you. Now, you and I can see over here, wow, there's some spikes and peaks in our CPU and total memory. We were already alerted that there's a problem. Now you and I want to find out what the problem is. So it looks like the CPU is in memory. So we're going to go ahead and look at our metrics. Now, another feature in our tool is this dashboard panel allows you to open up the metrics. Okay. Now let me do a little cleanup here. I got a lot of dashboards open up here. I want to close some of these. All right. So that's good. All right, so now when I click on this icon in my CPU and total memory, it's going to go ahead and launch another tab. That's going to be my metrics tab. Now, in case you see this on an exam, ladies and gentlemen, in case you see this on an exam, the first thing you see in your metrics is a heat map. That heat map, the darker the color, the more the actual messages. So notice there aren't any colors here, then it gets dark. So be aware, in case this ever appears on exam, the heat map, the darker the message, excuse me, the darker the color, the more the messages, okay? We're looking at that same diagram that we saw in our dashboard. We are analyzing our CPU and our memory. That's the metrics that we're actually identifying as an issue, okay? CPU and memory. Here's the actual query that generated that diagram, okay? Now, if we want to bring that query into focus, another technique, we can go to any one of these heat map cells, any one of these heat map cells, and hold down my shift key and click on my mouse. In case it ever appears on exam, again, I'm going to the heat map, okay? What that does is that opens up the underlying query. So here's the query that generated that. Let me go to it so you can remember, that generated this diagram. Okay, so here's that query. Okay, now that query is using something called a metadata tag. I'll talk about those later. Okay, it's equating the metadata tag to my production 8, my travel, my checkout logs. So I'm looking at my travel checkout logs. It's also utilizing a keyword. Of my travel checkout logs, make sure it has either error or exception in that checkout log message, okay? And if I run that, of course, I'm gonna put a little bit more time on it. Again, I'm demonstrating. We'll talk over about all the layouts coming up, okay? Now, what I see here, I can see that all of these messages have either error or exception highlighted, okay? Now, what I would rather see, instead of focusing only on error and exception messages, I want to see all of my messages, all of my production checkout messages. So I'm removing the keywords and I'm rerunning by clicking on the blue start search. I'm rerunning, okay? Now you can see that there's over 24,000 messages and I'm seeing all of the messages. Okay. Now, if we take a look at some of these messages, some of them have similar text. So certificate verified failed, certificate verified failed. Again, some of them have similar text. Okay. We are looking at 24,964 records. My goal is to find out what happened. Okay. Excuse me, why it happened. We know that our CPU and our memory had spikes and peaks. Okay, we know that. So we want to find out why. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in this demo, I'm going to demonstrate some of that machine learning, some of that analytics. I'm going to use the log reduce feature. It's going to look at all 24,000 of those records and find patterns. So watch. It's going through those 24,000 records and it's putting those patterns together. What's that going to do for me, ladies and gentlemen? It's going to alleviate me from having, you and I, from having to look at all 24,000 messages, okay? So as it's still rendering, you can see it says gathering results. I'm waiting for it to say done. My goal here is to find out why my CPU and memory are spiking. Okay, so it's done gathering results. I still have my 24,000 as a count. I still have my original messages tab. So remember I showed you the original message tab, but now with this log reduce, it generates a signatures tab. So what it's telling me here, it's saying, hey, Odell, now yours might not read, hey, Odell, but it says, hey, Odell, this message appears, of this 24,000 times, it appears 12,000 times. The asterisk in the message represents different numbers. So maybe it's a different level name number, or maybe it's a different digit number, a credit card number. But all of this other stuff that we see, again, it's 12,000 times. Again, 3,000 times, and so forth and so on. So that's some of that machine learning from the log reduce feature. Now, another technique in our tool is you can change the sort order by clicking on the column headers. So right now my counts are in descending order. I can see the arrow there. If I click on it, it changes my count to ascending order. And I want to find out what happened. Now, if you take a look at this very first message, it happened one time. It reads info, boot 27, Travel Logic starting cluster, okay. Service checkout, okay. Version 1.14, dev, okay. Can anybody see what the problem is? You can put it in chat. Anybody see what the problem is? Any guesses? Think about what environment that I'm monitoring, ladies and gentlemen. What am I monitoring? What environment? Production, that's correct. I'm monitoring production, but if we look here at the very first message, someone promoted a dev version in a production environment. So this very first message is the issue. Okay. All right. So getting back to my actual slides here, hopefully that demo kind of brought you full circle. We started out being notified, alerted by our Slack system. Within our Slack, we created alerts. And we also tied dashboards to our alerts. We then were able to look at our metrics and find out what was going on. We found out that we had spikes in our CPU and our memory. We then were able to go over to our logs and find out what actually happened. Why is our CPU and memory happening now? That's because someone promoted a dev release in our production environment, okay? All right, now, again, leaning on your imagination, ladies and gentlemen, I talked about a highway, okay? And I talked about a traffic light on the highway, but let's imagine that highway. And I want to describe to you Sumo Logic's data flow, okay? On one end of the highway, is Sumo Logic's cloud-based environment. On the other end of the highway is your metrics, your logs, your traces, all of that machine data. That's your environment, okay? Now, somehow we need a vehicle to transport on this highway your data into our environment. That leads us to this data flow. So we're going to use a collector to transport your logs, your metrics, your traces on that highway into Sumo Logic. That collector defines your sources, AWS East, production, Apache, whatever you're defining your logs and metrics are. This is the vehicle that's going to be used. It's called a collector. That collector is going to encrypt, compress, and send your data into our Sumo Logic environment, okay? If you're interested in learning more about collectors, we offer an administration course. It's actually going to be taught here on Thursday. So we're teaching that class on Thursday. So I'll show you where you can register for that coming up. But anyhow, we're talking about that highway. We're talking about getting your data into our environment. We're using the collector as a vehicle to transport, okay? Once your data is in our Sumo Logic environment, that's going to allow you and I to search and analyze through that data utilizing Sumo Logic's operators, okay? We will be able to then display our output in different types of charts, okay? That will then lead us to setting up dashboards to allow us to monitor, to set up some alerts so we can visualize what's going on. That's our logical data flow. The big takeaways: get your data in, search through it to find out what's going on, share and monitor by using dashboards. Excuse me. All right, now, I know this slide looks overwhelming, but again, hang in there. You and I are going to divide the slide in half, okay? It's two halves. Again, I'm talking about that highway. Remember your imagination. I said we're going to talk about a highway. Here's the highway again, okay? Here's on one end of the highway, Sumo Logic, okay? On the other end of the highway is your logs and your metrics, your data, okay? We are splitting this slide in half. There are two types of collectors. Those are the vehicles that's going to transport your data into our environment, okay? Let's look at the left side of the slide here. One type of collector is called installed, okay? So in this example here, we're looking at an on-prem environment. We have several servers. We're installing a collector on each one of these servers, sort of like a distributed installation, okay? Each one of these collectors is going to encrypt, compress, and send your data through the firewall up into the Sumo Logic environment. Distributed on-prem example. Another example is maybe we have a dedicated server, standalone, okay, where we install the collector. It's being fed other servers' logs and metrics. It, of course, is going to encrypt, compress, and send through the firewall up into the Sumo Logic environment. On-prem examples. On the other hand, is the hosted collector. Okay, the hosted collector, there's no installation, ladies and gentlemen. It's already a cloud, hosted in the cloud. So we just need to know where the logs are, what logs are, any credentials to get to them. But again, we will then host it, okay? So two types of collectors is the big takeaway from this screen. If you're gonna have an on-prem environment, you can have both on-prem, a mixed environment where you have on-prem and cloud. But again, depending on where your logs and metrics you're collecting, you're gonna either use a hosted or installed. Now, once your data gets into our environment, it actually during ingestion it gets tagged, okay? And you need to be able to grab that logs and metrics so you can build some searches on it, okay? What you're seeing here is 5 types of metadata tags to allow you to grab that data once it's in our environment, okay? So the first type of metadata tag is a collector. You could actually specify the host name and again, be able to grab that data. It's a larger approach, but again, it'll work. You can use the underscore source name metadata tag where you're using the name and the path of the log file. That'll work as well, okay? But you'll notice at the bottom of this screen, there's one that's in bold. That's our preferred. That's our recommended. That's the one where you'll see us use most often, okay? It can be freely configured. What do you mean by that, Odell? I mean that we can set it up. Underscore source category equals labs Apache access. Or underscore source category equals AWS region 1 labs Apache access. Or maybe underscore source category is equal to prod Apache access, or maybe prod Apache era, and so forth and so on. So it's freely configurable, allow you to grab that actual log tag, okay? All right, so enough of me chitter-chatting, ladies and gentlemen. Now you and I will have the opportunity to log into our training environment. I need you to think of a 3-digit number and put that 3-digit number in the chat for me. Again, I need you to think of a 3-digit number from 1 to 999. Put that number in the chat for me. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Robert. Sorry for mispronouncing your name. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Pramod, James. Thank you. Good, good. Now, what you're going to do, I'm going to simulate what you're doing. I'm going to put the actual credentials in the chat for you again. You're going to open up a browser. Okay. You're going to go ahead and let me log out of where I'm in now so I can do it for you because I'm logged in as myself. Log out of that. Okay. So again, you're going to open up a browser, and in that browser you're going to type in service.sumologic.com. You need to type that in order to get into our training environment. All right. Now, once you type that in, you'll go ahead and type in as an email address training. Whoops, I fat fingered it. Let me close this. Okay. Again, you're going to type in training, the plus symbol, the word analyst, and your 3-digit number. Okay, at sumologic.com. Then you're going to use the password that's in the chat window as uppercase F for fireworks, exclamation mark. And I try to look at it to make sure I didn't fat finger it. So you're using your 3-digit number, you're logging into our training environment. Okay. Now, before you start doing anything, let me explain the environment. Let me help you kick the tires. Let me help you look under the hood. Let me help you drive the car around the block. First, anyone not able to log in, please confirm that you are able to log in by either raising your hand or saying, I'm in. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Carolina. All right. Thank you, Marcella. Thank you, Sham. If you're not able to get in, please let me know. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Pramit. I don't want to leave anyone. That's why I want to make sure everyone gets in. All right. Hopefully everyone's in. Let me know if you have it. I'll try to find out if you have it. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Okay. So again, let's sure, Dan, there you go. I'll put the credentials in there for you again. The password is fireworks, uppercase F and an exclamation mark. All right. Hopefully everyone's in now. Again, let me know if you're not able to get in. All right, good. James, I'm not able to get in. So what's your issue, James? Tell me what the message is, or what the problem is. You can use another number. Use another number, Mark. Try another number. Try another number, James. Again, you should have no issues unless your environment is locked down. You should have no issues getting to our website, training environment. Hopefully that worked for you, James. All right, just allowing others to get in, okay? All right, so now let me just kind of walk you around the actual car here to get your help around now. Okay, now if you logged in and you saw the phrase Sumo Logic and you saw a stack of blueberry pancakes, if you hover over it, if you hover off of it, it's buttermilk. Again, hover over it, it's blueberry. Hover off of it, it's buttermilk. Now, again, if you click on that stack of pancakes, it expands our navigation panel. If you look to the right of the phrase Sumo Logic, there's an arrow there that would hide it. So we have the ability to hide and show our navigation panel. Good to hear, Mark. Glad you're in. Okay. Again, all we're doing is just describing the navigation panel. Okay. If you came in, ladies and gentlemen, if you came in and you saw a bunch of tabs, because again, this is our training environment, maybe someone used it before. If you saw a bunch of tabs, you can go to any one of those tabs in that training environment and just close all tabs. That's if you saw that. You may not have seen it. I just wanted to kind of cover that, okay? Now, with our navigation panel visible, you have 4 icons within the navigation panel. The first icon, the most left icon, looks like a clock, sort of speaking. It is a clock, looks like. That's your recents folder. So if you recently opened an item or recently searched or something like that, it's going to be stored in that folder. That's sort of like that quick access. I recently opened something. I want to go back to that folder. Okay. To the right of that is your favorite folder. So something you liked, maybe it was a search or a dashboard. You can favorite it. It will be stored in this folder. This is your favorites folder. To the right of that is your personal folder. Whenever you save something, it's going to be stored there. Okay, you create a search, you save it, it's going to be stored there. That's different than favoriting something. I'm just saying something you created and you saved. It's going to be stored in your personal folder. That's yours. Okay. And then finally, the library. Your administrator may have shared something with the entire company, or maybe another user has shared a dashboard with the entire company. Where would you find it? In your library. Okay, so those are the 4 icons under the Sumo Logic title up top. Underneath the 4 icons, you have the ability to search. It's case insensitive. Again, you have the ability to search, and it's case insensitive. Again, going further down in the darker shaded area of our navigation panel, you'll see the darker shaded area. We refer to this as the main menu. Okay, I want to point out one of the things in the main menu that's going to be helpful to you. It's logging out. So if you wanted to log out of this continuous intelligence platform, you click on your user ID and you go to sign out. That's how you would log out. Okay. All right, now let's go over to the right of the navigation panel. You should see 3 tabs. You should see one that looks like a house. That's your home tab. You should then see one to the right, looks like a folder. That's your library tab. And then one to the right looks like a bell. That's your alerts tab. You and I are going to spend our time on the home tab. Okay. Under the home tab, you'll see 3 links. There's the home, the learn, and the certification. I'm clicking on the home tab, home link. That's what you should see. That's where you should be. We're just kicking the tires, looking under the hood, getting a feel for the tool. So on the home tab, home link, you see different types of search capabilities that you can start. Okay. You then see recently opened dashboard areas, recently run search areas, and recommended dashboards. So this again is your home tab and your home link. To the right of your home link, under your home tab, is your learn link. One of the things we've done here for you is, again, you might be excited about learning more. We've provided some quick start videos for you. So if you want to learn more about the CIP, Odell, what is the CIP? You keep saying CIP, Continuous Intelligence Platform. So if you want to learn more about this, again, we have a little quick video for you, okay? If you want to learn more about data or data collections, or maybe a strategy, or maybe some metadata or keywords, again, we have videos for you to help you start out, okay? Be aware that out on YouTube, there's a plethora of Sumo Logic related videos out there as well, okay? Now, again, we're on the home tab, learn link. We just looked at the quick start videos. Down at the bottom of this learn link, you'll see 6 boxes, okay? One of the first boxes, if we click on that, that box launches another tab, okay? It's our operators. Here we define the operator, the descriptions, and the examples. Again, if you remember our data flow schematic that we had up, we had a 3-part data flow. One of the steps was to get your data into our environment. That was the collector. The next step was to build searches to analyze and parse through your data. That was that middle piece. And I mentioned the word operators. Here are those operators. Now, for those of you that are taking the Search Mastery course tomorrow, we're going to go through quite a few of these operators throughout that course, okay? I am closing the cheat sheet tab and going back to the CIP. We had just clicked on the cheat sheet tab. Now I'm going to the documentations tab. Again, it launches a new tab. Now maybe you want to learn more, but you want to take it at a self pace. maybe this is the approach you use, ladies and gentlemen. You come out here, you click on the documentation. This is our documentation hub. You can come out here and maybe you start with the start here. Maybe you click on that, okay? And then you can find out more about Sumo Logic. All of these indentations are on this particular screen. One of the other things you might want to do, as I mentioned, you might want to do self-paced learning. Right now, you're learning with a trainer for fundamentals. But you can go into this quick start labs and tutorials link here. Once you go into that link, it'll allow you, here's the fundamentals, that's what we're doing now. But you can go to administration, search mastery. That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. Administrator will be doing Thursday. You can come back and take, or you can take on your own if you want self-paced. If you want to learn how to build a SOC dashboard, you can go ahead and take the cloud security and monitoring and analytics. And you also have metric mastery. These are the methods of taking that at self-pace. I'll demonstrate in a minute where you would register if you wanted to do it instructor-led, okay? So again, there's tons of information in our documentation hub to start here. Again, this is a great place for you to start to get more comfortable with the tool on your own, okay? I am closing the tab for our documentation. It's a good idea to keep abreast of what's new in our tool. Again, things are always changing. So clicking on the what's new will keep you up to breast. You might want to issue a support ticket. So again, you can ask support for some help. Maybe you like the way Odell's teaching you and you say, hey, I really like that Odell trainer. I want to learn more, okay? Or maybe not, but anyhow, hopefully you do. You'll click on get training. And we have other trainers here too as well. And you open up our LMS. And here you can see the upcoming courses. And you can just quickly over to the right, just click on register now. We typically offer a morning and evening session. So we offer the class twice a day. So we've already did the morning fundamentals. You guys, of course, taking the evening fundamentals. Search Mastery, if you're interested, you can register for those. There's still time, as well as the administration courses, okay? We'll have our August classes up shortly, so you'll be able to click on this arrow here and then go to August as well. All right, I am closing the Get Trained tab and going back to the CIP. And that last box over to the right is the community. That is where you'll find information that other Sumo users share. They share information like problems or issues, again, things like that. That's the community out there. All right, so again, we're kicking the tires. We just looked at the home tab, the learn link. We found out all about everything that's on the learn link, okay? Next, we're gonna go ahead and, that's a great question, Jesse. Jesse's question is there a certain training I should follow after this one, or is there no order? So it kind of depends. Sorry, I have to give you that, Jesse. But what I'm about to do is lead you to our environment, and I'll kind of show you some things, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, the last thing we're gonna do here is click on the certification link. Now, I am going to log out. I want you to stay logged in. The reason I'm going to log out, I want to log in as myself because I have more rights and I want to show you some things. I want to demonstrate some things. So you stay logged in, stay in on your CIP, stay in the CIP. I'm just going to quickly log in here and get back to where you should be. All right, so let's all make sure we're on the home tab certification link. Now, eventually, ladies and gentlemen, even after this class, you're going to click on get certified. But what I want to point out first, I'm going to remind you of this. You're not going to take the exam as who you logged in as now. You're logged into our training environment. If you take the exam right now, it's going to say, hey, congratulations, training number 101. You've successfully passed the fundamentals score. You don't want that. So you're going to log out when it's time to take the certification. But anyhow, there is some information that's pertinent to you that you can see right now. So we all clicked on the get certified. If you haven't, you can watch, no worries. Now, this Get Certified has, you're not going to see the same amount of boxes that I'm seeing, ladies and gentlemen. When you log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, you will. But right now in our training environment, we don't have all of those boxes, okay? Now, I want to talk about a few things here. Of course, when it's time to take the certification, you're going to come here and click Get Certified. But what I wanted to mention to you is, if you wanted to do self-pace, you can come in here and go to the recorded live trainings. You should see that in the training environment. You can click on the recorded live trainings, and here are all the trainings. Now, the question was, well, after I take this class, what should I take? And I mentioned it depends, okay? And I said that because administration, if that's your role, then maybe you want to need to learn how to build collectors and know about the environment and setting up users and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe you need to know that, okay? Or maybe you're an analyst and you're going to need to build some searches and parse through all of those logs and metrics and traces. So again, it depends. You could take in this order, you can skip around. It really depends on your needs, okay? All right. Now, what I wanted to show you here also here is, if I wanted to, you could have came out to this here. Let me go all the way back so I can get you to where I want you to be. Just bear with me for 1 second. So remember, we were here and I was talking about recorded live trainings. One of the advantages of this, if you wanted to take the actual course self-paced, you could come out to recorded live trainings. You could click on, let's say you wanted to take administration next, but you wanted to take it on your own. You could click on it here, register free. And what you're going to get is you're going to get the actual 2-hour, oh, my lovely face, sorry about that. You're going to get the 2-hour lecture and labs. So you're going to get that, and you'll go ahead and get the ability to have the slides and the student guides. So for all of our courses, ladies and gentlemen, if you go into the Get Certified, you click on recorded live trainings, you can get the video and the actual labs and the slides, okay? Now, let's continue on. There's a few more pieces of information I want to talk about here, and then we'll get started. Okay, so we'll take a break shortly. Just give me one more thing I want to talk about here. So again, I'm still on the Get Trained. Now, this training environment, ladies and gentlemen, that I gave you access to a minute ago, it's available to you until the first Monday of the next month. So you have all of this time to get more comfortable and familiar with the tool in our training environment, all the way up until the first Monday of August. Now, if you say, wow, I really need to kind of play around in the training, and the password's changed, but you have access to your company's production, your company's Sumo Logic environment. If you have access to that, you can come right into Get Trained again, but this time you're going to click on Become a Sumo Logic Expert. And that's where we'll update the new password. Odell, you went too fast. You lost me. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we've given you access to our training environment. That password's going to change the first Monday in August, okay? If you need to get access to the training environment again, log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, click on Get Certified, come to Become a Sumo Logic Expert, and there you'll see the actual password, okay? All right, so I digress, talked about a lot there. Let's get back to the main here. So we looked at Get Certified, we looked at our Learn link, and we looked at our Home tab. We know about our navigation panel, the main menu. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break if there aren't any questions. All right, so I'll put up the timer and I'll see you in 5. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you had the opportunity to breathe, stretch, get away from the monitor for a moment. All right, so we just kicked the tires, looked under the hood. We kind of understand the environment. Let's go ahead and start off with our labs, okay? Now, another thing that I want to share with you all is the my resource. The tool is forever changing. I don't know everything about the tool, but I do have a resource and I want to share that with you, and I want you to use this as well, okay? So go ahead and open up a browser and type in help.sumologic.com. Remember that website, ladies and gentlemen, as you take any of our exams for any of our courses, because that's going to be a resource for you, okay? So when you type in that help.sumologic.com, okay, looks familiar. Remember we came here before, to start here? How did we get here before, Odell? Well, if you recall, when we were in the CIP and we clicked on the Learn link, we clicked on the documentation. You might not have noticed, but that same URL is the same URL I asked you to open, okay? So again, whichever method you use, we're gonna get to our documentation hub. I want you to go ahead and click on where it reads Quick Start Labs and Tutorials. Go ahead and click on that link. And go ahead and click on the fundamentals. And these are the labs that I am going to guide you through. I have put that in the chat just in case someone's not able to find it, okay? All right, now, if you are in a Google Chrome environment, you can pin your tab. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin, right click on my lab guide, and I'm going to pin it. The advantage of me pinning is it easily allows me to toggle between the CIP and the lab guide. CIP, lab guide, okay? So hopefully you all are up to this point. I haven't left anyone. All right, in the lab guide, let's go ahead together and go ahead and click on number 1, viewing data, okay? All right, so in this lab, again, you've already logged into the environment. Congratulations, good job, okay? What you and I want to do is see what data is available. Again, let me lean on your imagination. Let's imagine that in our environment, each one of our environments, that our administrator has created collectors and defined the sources that we need. So let's imagine that he or she has done that, but they went on vacation. We, you and I, want to be able to find out if those collectors have been created. Because of course, if they haven't been created, we won't be able to source, search through those logs and metrics. So again, you and I are going to go ahead and find out if those collectors are created. So going back to the CIP together, make sure your navigation panel is visible. Go down to the main menu, which is the darker shaded area. Let's click on the phrase manage data. Under manage data, you see some sublinks. Let's click on collections, okay? Now I need to log out because I know I'm gonna start getting, I don't see what you see. So I wanna get out of that. Let me log out and get back in as a student here. So just bear with me. So I know that collector page looks busy. Just give me a moment here. I will demonstrate to you how to maneuver around in there. And I'll do, okay, at sumologic.com. All right, and we want to do uppercase. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna get back to where you are. Did I fat finger it? Yes, I did. That always happens when you don't look at it, Odell. All right, anyhow, so you had clicked on in the navigation panel, you went ahead and clicked on manage data, and you clicked on collections. And as I mentioned, this looks overwhelming. So let me walk you through it. So first of all, realize you opened up a collections tab when you clicked on the collections. You see that there's 3 tabs here. There's collection, status, and archive. Okay, we're going to stay on the collection. Under that collection, you'll see there's the ability to search. Okay, under the search capability, there's the show all collectors. There's a drop down arrow to the right. You can change what you're seeing. So maybe you only want to see hosted or installed or etc. So you can filter to see different types of collector. To the right of that, you're seeing 10 collectors. Maybe you want to see a larger amount. You click the drop down arrow and you can change that as well. Over to the right, all of our collectors are expanded. So we're seeing their sources. So one of the things that I do most often when I come into the collectors page is I click on the none. So what that does is that collapses all of the collectors so you don't see the sources underneath them, okay? All right, now you'll notice that the links are all grayed out because an analyst, which you logged in as a training analyst, you don't have any rights to create collectors. You're gonna learn more about that in the administration course on Thursday, okay? Now, let's go ahead and search for a collector. So go ahead, right there, place your cursor in the search area and type in OCTA, case insensitive. Case insensitive. Notice I have an uppercase just to show you I'm using mixed case and it's case insensitive. Hit the return or enter key after you type in OCTA. Let's not click on anything. Let's just hover over. Okay, on the first line, I see the OCTA item. Okay. Good question. Arvin asked, what's the difference between a collector and a source? A collector is the vehicle that carries your logs, your metrics, and your traces. Those are your sources. Your logs, your metrics, and your traces are your sources. Collectors are the vehicles that carries your sources to our environment, okay? All right, now let's go ahead and take a look. We're hovering over, we're not expanding, okay? So right now I see Labs Oakland. That's the name of the collector. I see it's healthy. Remember we talked about the traffic light on our highway? Green is good, so it's healthy. It's a hosted collector. Over to the right, I can see under sources, there's a number 1. It has 1 source defined underneath it. Under last hour, I can see that it has had some activity. That's what that graphic means. There's been some activity in the last hour. Over to the right is my messages tab, and I can, my messages column, and I can see that it has ingested over 17,000 messages in the last hour. Okay, if I and you were to expand the labs, the first one, I can see, oh, it's bringing back my labs OCTA logs. So this is the data being defined, the source being defined by this collector. Okay, I'm going to collapse that one and hover over the next one. So it is healthy as well. It's hosted. Does anyone know the other type of collector? I know it's hosted, but isn't there another type of collector? Anyone know the name of that without looking back? Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Shri. Again, installed is the other type. Okay, good. So we can see this is hosted. We can see that it has 5 sources underneath it defined. We can see in the last hour, it has had some activity, and we can see that it has ingested over 26,000 messages in the last hour. If we were to expand the actual collector name, oh, we can see the sources that are being defined or being carried into Sumo Logic. My CloudTrail logs, my OCTA, my S3 buckets, my VPC flows. Those are the 5 sources that are being defined by this collector, okay? All right, toggling back to our lab guide. We went through all of that. All right, next, we should be on number 4, ladies and gentlemen. The data that's available to us is organized by source categories. To see all of the available categories, let's do a simple query that counts our log messages by source category. So ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and highlight what's under number 4 and copy that. Again, highlight what's under number 4 in your lab guide and copy that. Let's go back to our CIP. You can close the collection tab because we can always open it whenever we want to. I normally, ladies and gentlemen, close my tabs. It's not mandatory. I just don't like seeing a whole bunch of tabs. But if you like to, that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to close this tab. Now, you and I can click on the new button. If you were on the home link, you can click on that log search, but we're going to get in the habit of clicking on this new button. Okay, so let's click on new and let's go log search. The first thing I want you to be aware of is when you click on a new log search, by default, if you get any pop-up menus, you can just close them or skip them or whatever. But the first thing I want you to be aware of when you open up a log search, a new log search, it's going to equate to the last 15 minutes. That's the time period, okay? Let's go ahead and paste right next to where you see the 1, there's an area where you can paste in your actual query. Let's try to get an understanding, a very high level understanding of what this query is trying to do. Some of you may be familiar with SQL, SQL. Some of you may be familiar with that. You may notice that there's an asterisk at the beginning of our query, okay? That asterisk is just like you think. Similar to SQL, our tool has some similar features to SQL. So this asterisk represents a wildcard. So here's that metadata tag source category. Remember when I talked about it, I said it's our favorite, the one we're going to use most often. This is telling us count up all of our source categories over the last 15 minutes. And if we want to run this query, we click on that blue magnifying glass. Now, that query generated 2 tabs. First of all, under that query, you see it has a histogram, a minute-by-minute breakdown, okay? Underneath the histogram, it has the status is being done, the elapsed time, the total results. Your number may not be exactly like mine. That's not important. You also see the session ID if you need it. Below the session ID, you see 2 tabs. You see a messages tab. Under the messages tab, you see there's the time that's going to be displayed and the messages that's going to be displayed. What I'm viewing over here, ladies and gentlemen, this area over here to the left under my messages tab is referred to as the field browser. In case you see that on an exam somewhere, this is my field browser, okay? Now, to the right of that messages tab, you see the actual message, the time it happened and the actual message. I'm seeing page 1 of over 35,000, okay? It has 25 items per page, okay? I also have an aggregates tab. Now, this aggregates tab was created because we used an aggregate in our query. That count by, so any aggregate is going to generate an aggregates tab. So here on this aggregates tab, we're seeing our count by source categories. So we can see each source category and the total amount of messages that it has. We can see that Kubernetes has over 37,000 messages, okay, within the last 15-minute period. All right, going back to the CIP, it's continuing on. All right, now, suppose, ladies and gentlemen, that you were interested in your log messages from Apache Access, okay? Now, you could search them, of course, because you have the category, you could do that. But you can also see if someone else in our organization has some saved searches or dashboards that are related to Apache Access. So maybe someone has it and you want to utilize what they have, okay? That's one approach. Or maybe someone doesn't have it and we want to install an app. And I'll talk more about that coming up, okay? What we want to do first, you and I together, is we're going to go back to the CIP. We're going to go to our library tab and we're going to search for Apache Access. So we want to search for a dashboard that someone shared with the entire company. So going back to the CIP together, make sure your navigation panel is visible. Click on the library tab in your navigation panel. Under the library tab, you should see a search area. It is case insensitive. So we're looking for Apache access that someone shared with us. After we type that in, case insensitive, we should be able to find that there is Apache access folders that someone shared with us. Now, Odell, I see that there's more than one Apache access folder. What's the difference between them? That's a great point. They were created by different people. So you can see one was created in this environment by Lee and one was created by John. Okay, let's go ahead and expand the first one. Whatever top Apache access you have, let's expand that folder. And in that folder, you'll notice there's some subfolders, but you'll see this blue purplish color icon. That's a dashboard. Let's click on the Apache Overview Dashboard. Now, keep in mind, if you see any information messages, go ahead and close those out. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this dashboard was shared with us from someone that may have changed it. So let me give you the big picture here. Let me go back to our diagram. You stay where you are, okay? Let me tell you that Sumo Logic has out-of-the-box apps. They provide dashboards, save searches, and field extraction rules. We give you that. This is the best way to start monitoring and looking at a new data source by utilizing the actual apps that we have, okay? Now going back to where you are, you're looking at an Apache Overview app that someone may have tinkered with. Maybe they changed it a bit. So it's not as pristine as the original app. So again, we can see on this here Apache Access Overview that we can see our uptime, our top 10 URLs, we can see our visitors locations. Again, there's pertinent information on here that we can find, but what we don't realize or know is if someone else has actually changed the actual dashboards, okay? Well, when you say change the dashboard, once you consume it and you save it as yours, you have the ability. Now, the person that created, they can limit whether you can edit or change the dashboard. So depending on what rights they've given you, you may or may not have access to changing the dashboard, okay? So hopefully that answers that anonymous question. All right, now, so we looked at a dashboard, ladies and gentlemen, that someone shared with us. Now, let's imagine that the dashboard didn't exist or we couldn't find anything. So we want to utilize what Odell just mentioned earlier. We want to utilize those dashboards that Sumo Logic has. Again, they provide out-of-the-box dashboards, save searches, and field extraction rules for the most popular data sources, okay? This is the best way to start exploring your data source. I wanted to repeat that to you so you can understand. We want you to use our tool, even though you may not be comfortable with it right away. You can use it for any sources that you already have. Okay, so what we're going to do together, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and add that Apache from our app, and we're going to go ahead and name it. Let's call this we'll use our initials. So we'll call it Apache in our initials. So back here in the CIP, ladies and gentlemen, you can close that Apache overview or any tabs you have open. You don't need them open. You don't need them open. You can always open them again. Okay. Let's go down in our navigation panel. Let's look at the main menu, the darker shaded area. The very first link there is the app catalog. Let's click on that. So what you're seeing is all types of sources. Some of you may be using Kubernetes. We have tons of actual apps out there for Kubernetes, okay? But you and I are gonna go ahead and search. We're gonna search for Apache, case insensitive. Notice I'm using mixed case, so you can see it doesn't matter the case, okay? You should see, it should filter down and you should see the Apache with the feather. That's the one that we want. So let's go ahead and click on that app. Now, the cool thing about these apps is one, it gives you a definition. It says, hey, Odell. Yours might not say, hey, Odell, but it says, hey, Odell. The Apache app is a unified logs and metrics app that helps you monitor the availability, the performance, the health, and the resource utilization of your Apache web. That's perfect. We have an Apache web farm. This is what we need. We don't have to build searches. They've already done it for us. And the even more cool thing about it is you can actually look at some of the preview, some of the dashboards by scrolling through. Okay, these are the dashboards that are going to come with it. So together, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and click on the blue box that says add integration. Click on that. You're now in a wizard mode. What you and I want to do is we don't want to bring back everything. We want to filter down. So right where it reads Apache log source, there's a drop down arrow. You want to choose enter a custom data filter. Okay, so we want these dashboards, these searches to only be applied to the data that we're gonna put in here. Now, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy it from my step 6 here, excuse me. Not step 6, is it? Yep. No, I wanna go ahead and copy, oh, there it is. We want our web server. So we want it to read web server system Apache. Now, if you're copying like me, don't copy the period, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want the period there. So again, that's what we want the filter to read, web server underscore system equals Apache. Though we want to bring our web server Apache logs. That's what that means, okay? So let's go back to the CIP if you haven't moved from it. Right over to the right, you have already designated it. It's enter a custom data filter. I'm now going to paste in there that web server underscore system equals Apache. Remember, we're in a wizard mode, so those are the only two things we filled out. I'm going to go ahead and put my initials by my folder name. You don't have to do that. It's not mandatory. I do it so often that I want to go ahead and put the date here as well. It's not mandatory that you do this. Again, it's going to create a folder with that name. You can go ahead and click next in the wizard mode in the top right corner. You're clicking next. Okay, and then you'll eventually get a success. Where should we look for this, ladies and gentlemen? Any idea where we should look for this thing we created? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. No, Jesse, not your library. In your personal folder. Remember, anything that you save is going to be stored in your personal folder, okay? Anything that someone shared with the entire organization is going to be in your library, okay? If you wanted to favorite something, you would click on the asterisk. Now that object is not only in one folder, but it will be in your favorites folder as well. I digress. You don't need to do that. I wanted to simply show you that. Okay. Anyhow, we do have that new item in our personal folder. Let's go ahead and expand it by clicking on the folder and clicking on the Apache overview. Now, this is pristine, meaning this is the way it came with no one touching it, okay? It's utilizing our filter, that web server underscore Apache, it's using that. So that's the data it's looking at, okay? So we can see our uptime, our request time, our bytes per second, and so forth and so on, okay? We can see, if you take a look here, we can zoom in on our one dashboard panel that says visitors location. We can left hold our mouse and drag it around. We can double click our mouse to go in and zoom in, or use our scroll bars as well. Okay. Now, other things that you can do, if we go back over to our navigation panel and we go to that folder, that Apache folder with our initials, if we hover over it, we can see 3 dots. That's our more. We can also share this folder with others. So let's go ahead and click on that share. Again, I went to the Apache folder, went to the 3 dots, clicked on share. So what it's saying is it's going to share this folder. It's going to share it with specific users or roles, okay? When I click below that phrase users and roles, it actually gives me the entire organization, and it starts giving me roles, and then it starts giving me users, okay? You and I are going to go ahead and click on your entire organization, okay? We could email the recipients to notify them. We're going to turn that off, but you could do that so they get notified there's something new out there. Now, some of you had asked, well, what permissions do they have when they have access to it? Well, you have the ability to grant them view, edit, or manage, okay? Now, in case this appears on an exam, there's no delete and there's no read. You have the ability to grant access as view, edit, and manage, okay? We'll leave it as view and we'll share it, okay? Now, users can go into their libraries and they can go and search for what you shared with them, okay? And I think I called mine Apache OG. So I'm going to search for that. And O and an asterisk, okay? And I see I have several of them out here, okay? So again, they are able to come to the library, find out what you shared with the entire organization, all right? All right, going back to the actual diagram here, excuse me, the lab guide, scrolling through, we actually saved it, we shared it. All right, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You've completed part 1. You signed into Sumo Logic. You searched for source categories. You searched and viewed for a dashboard that someone shared with us. Then you installed an app and shared it with others, okay? In our lab guide, ladies and gentlemen, in the bottom right corner, you have the ability to go to the next lab. Let's continue on. Let's pick up the pace a bit. Let's click on lab 2. All right, with lab 2 here, we want to search within our logs. Now, this is just to wet your palate. Tomorrow, for those of you that are coming back to take the Search Mastery course, we get heavily into building searches, okay? Here, we just kind of cover the surface, all right? Anyhow, we want to go ahead and build an actual search here. So we're going to use the actual item under number 2. Go ahead and copy what's under number 2. Go ahead and copy that to memory, what's under number 2. And let's go back to the CIP. If you have any tabs open, it's not mandatory that you close them. I go ahead and close mine, but you want to go ahead and just click on the new button and create a new log search. Go ahead and paste in your query. Now, we were told to run this for 60 minutes. So let's first talk about the time frame. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Remember when I said, again, when you create a new log search, it's going to default to the last 15 minutes. Well, maybe that's not what you want. So when you click the actual time, it has 3 tabs. It has a list of relative times that you can select from. If you've been in the environment before, you have a list of recent times. And then you have a list of custom times that you can choose, a date and a time period, okay? If you wanted to use a relative time and you didn't see it, let's say we wanted to use 45 seconds, but we don't see it. So what we would do here is we would click that actual time area up top. I'm gonna get off of it and click back on it. So we would make sure it's highlighted and we would type in the numeric value. So if I wanted 45, I'd type in 45. And again, if I wanted minutes, I'd use M for minutes. I use D for days, and I use H for hours, okay? So again, I'm gonna go ahead and just use M for minutes. So now I could run, oh, what I failed to remember, and I'm glad this is a teachable moment. In order for this to work, you need to start out with a minus symbol, okay? You start out with a minus symbol, type in your numeric value, and you choose whether you want minutes, hours, or days, okay? Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and just move this to 60 so we don't have to worry about that. So this is saying, what this message is reading, it's using that favorite metadata tag. Remember we talked about this one? It's saying source category equal to my lab's Apache access. So I want from my lab environment, my access logs, okay? Next, you'll see the and. Now, in case this appears on the exam, the and is implied. Odell, what do you mean? The and is not necessary, it's implied. It's really there for readability and for you to understand what we're doing. But I could remove this and it still would work, okay? So the and is implied. If you wanted to use ors, they're explicit, which means you have to really type them in, okay? The ands are implied. Anyhow, the next thing after that, you'll see there's a get message, okay? The get is to indicate that we want a keyword, okay? Now, it's not in quotes because, again, we want get messages. But if it was get in a certain case, let's say we were looking for something in a specific case, then we would put it in quotes, okay? But we don't need to put it in quotes in this issue. It would work with quotes either way, okay? Now, if we run this query, it's going to bring back all of our access messages that have the word get in them, okay? It's only bringing back the messages that have get in them. Okay, let's run that for the last 60 minutes. Okay, now what we should see, okay, and you might see it as well, is that you have status of done, you have an elapsed time, and you have results, okay? There's your histogram up top, minute by minute. I didn't mention this, but you could hide the histogram by clicking on the word hide and show. That's how you hide it, in case you don't want to see it, okay? You can hide and show it. Anyhow, under the actual messages tab in our field browser area, you see the time and the message. Those are the two fields that are going to be displayed. Of those 30,000 messages, I'm looking at page 1 of over 1,000 pages, okay? Of this page 1, I'm seeing 25 items per page, okay? All of these messages have get highlighted because we use the keyword get. And let me digress for a moment to demonstrate to you. If I run this again without the get, it will still work. Again, the and is implied, okay? I'm gonna put mine back to the way it is, the way yours is, so I don't confuse anyone. But in case that appears on the exam, you know the answer already. Now, if you ever need to change the number of display items, remember you're going to get 25 per page. If you ever need to change that, you go over to the gear symbol, over to the right here, and you change the display message preferences, and you change this number. Odell, what do you mean? Again, the tool prints out or displays 25 items per page. To change that, you go to the gear symbol and change that item, okay? All right, now, let's go back to our CIP. Excuse me, go back to our lab guide. Now, next, we want to talk about parsing. Now, here's where it becomes beneficial to you. We talk more about this tomorrow in the Search Mastery, but we wet your palate here, okay? Parsing makes search results easier to scan and interpret. You and I are going to parse out URL, status code, size, and the referring URL address. We're going to parse out these items after our get message, okay? Now, let me digress for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Before you do anything, I want to kind of go back over here to the help and demonstrate a few things because this might appear on an exam. If I go to my help and I type in parse operators, okay, it's going to give me a list of choices, okay, and I choose the very first one, okay. The reason I'm bringing this up is because you might get a question, what types of parse operators are there? So there's the parse anchor, there's the parse regex, there's the JSON, the key value, the CSV, and so forth. So there's different types of parsing. I'm going to digress a little bit more. The difference between a parse anchor and a parse regex, you're going to learn more about this tomorrow, but I'm kind of wetting your palate. An anchor is position-based, a regex isn't, okay? We are about to demonstrate a parse anchor, okay? So I'm closing my help, going back to the CIP, okay? You and I should be at the CIP. We've already ran the query. We're about to parse some items out. I want you to watch me first. In the very first message, I've located the get. The directions are to parse out these fields after the get. You and I want to use a parse anchor technique. So if you watch me, the quote to the left of the get is never going to change. So I'm going to anchor on the quote. Okay, so that means I'm clicking on the quote and then I'm holding my mouse down and I'm dragging my mouse all the way. I'm capturing the status code, I'm capturing the size, and I'm going all the way to the very last double quote, which has the URL. Okay, so take a look at mine. Yours is not going to be exactly like mine, but what I'd like for you to do in that very first record, the very first row of message, I want you to locate the get. To the left of the get, you should see the double quotes. Highlight that, drag your cursor, make sure you're getting the status code, which is that first number. You're getting the error, which is the second number. Then you're going all the way to the double quote to get the URL. Go ahead and highlight that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this one is position-based, which means if you don't get it right, there's no, well, maybe I can move the cursor or maybe I can click it. You can't do it that way, ladies and gentlemen. It's position-based. You have to start over and grab it again. So I want to kind of forewarn you about that, okay? Now, with that highlighted, let's go ahead and right-click on that highlighted item, and let's go to the phrase parse selected text. That brings up a new screen for us. Now, this screen is going to enable us to create field names off of the items that we're parsing out. So if you want to watch me first, okay? Here's my get message. I'm actually going to highlight everything after the get, but I'm not including any quotes, okay? So everything after the get, not the number, up to the quotes. I'm highlighting that. So you go ahead and do that as well. You'll see a yellow phrase that reads, click to extract this value. Let's go ahead and click on it. Notice what happens to the phrase. It's no longer highlighted. It's been replaced with an asterisk. What you and I need to do is place our cursor down in the fields area and let's name what we've replaced with the asterisk. Let's call it URL. And let's add a comma because we're going to do this 3 more times. Wait, Odell, you went too fast. I don't know what's going on. What are we doing? Well, we ran a query that brought back all of our get messages from our access logs. There's a log messages for, and they have get in them, okay? We want to be able to bring out some of those, parse out some of those other items. So what we're doing is we're doing a parse anchor technique. So far, all we've done is we've parsed out the URL. Let's continue on. I'm going to highlight that next numeric value, the first numeric value you see after the asterisk, highlight that. Click on the phrase, click to extract this value. And we're going to call this status code. Now, we're not going to use spaces. We're going to use underscores. So again, status code is what we're calling the next item. And we're going to add a comma after that because we're going to do it 2 more times. So we've parsed out the URL. We've parsed out the status code. Let's highlight the next item, which is our size. The next numeric value is the size. Let's click on the phrase, click to extract this value. After the comma, we're going to type in the word size and add another comma. And then lastly, we're going to just highlight everything, that entire URL. We won't get the quotes, but we'll highlight the entire URL. We're not getting the quotes. We'll click on the phrase where it reads, click to extract this value. After the comma, we'll type in refer. Okay. Odell, did I have to use the word URL, status code, size, and refer? No, it's not mandatory, but it's practical. You could have used A, B, C, and D, but you wouldn't know what they mean. So we use logical names here, but you could have used other names. You could have shortened them or what have you. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on the phrase submit. We're done here. Let's click on submit. What I want you to notice first, ladies and gentlemen, is your query has changed. It now has extended the expression by using a pipe. That pipe says, hey, continue this expression. I just added it on another line, okay? It says parse out. After the get, you're replacing all of those fields with these names. Let's go ahead and run that for the last 60 minutes. Let's click on the blue. All right, so you see your histogram. You see it has done, completed. The elapsed time to take any time. I see my results, okay? Under the results, I see my messages tab. In my field browser, under my display fields, not only do I have the time and the message, but I now have the refer, the size, the status code, and the URL. Okay. If I go over to the actual messages themselves, not only am I seeing the time, but I now have column headers for refer, size, status code, and URL. All that was achieved by parsing out. Okay. Now, okay, let's go back to our lab guide here. So we parsed out everything. Awesome. Did all of that. All right. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Now let's go ahead and save this. We're going to call it Apache status codes. So we want to save this query because we might need to use it again. So if you go up in the query area over to the right, you should see an icon that looks like a save as, a floppy disk, pardon me. All right, that's your save as. Or you can go to the 3 dots, the more, and choose save as. Okay. Let's go ahead and give it a name. Let's call this our Apache status codes. Okay, and let's put our initials. You don't have to put any date, just put your initials there. You could optionally add a description if you want to. You can see the actual query. You can see the time that we set it to. You can also see where it's going to be stored. So let's click on the save. And now if you go to your personal folder, you should see not only do you have the folder for the dashboard, but you now have for your query as well. Okay. All right, very good. So you have you can pat yourself on the back. You've completed part 2. You created a search query. You parsed your message so that they're easier to scan and interpret, and you save the search. Okay, let's continue on. In the bottom of our lab guide, let's click on lab 3. Let's chart our data. There's something very important that I want you to be aware of. Okay, first of all, be aware that visualizations are a very good forensic tool. Okay, visualizations. Okay, in order to build a visualization in our tool, ladies and gentlemen, in order to build a actual chart, okay, you must have either a group or an aggregate operator in your search. Okay, what do you mean, Odell? You need to have a min, a max, a count, a sum, an average. Those are all aggregates in order for you to display your results in the chart. You're going to see that coming up. Okay, now let's just suppose we're looking for our 404 errors. Okay, we want to learn more about them. Okay, how often are they happening? Are they happening at once, or what have you? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and copy the query under number 1. Copy that 3-line query under number 1. Okay, and let's go ahead and open up a new log search. Let's go back to the CIP, create a new log search. I am going to demonstrate some techniques. Go ahead and paste in your query. I want to be able to demonstrate this query running it row by row. Let me say that again. I want to demonstrate running this query line by line. So I want to comment out those lines. So here's the technique. One of the techniques I want to show you here. I'm using the double slash. I'm putting the double slash at the beginning of the row. That comments out in our tool. Okay, I want to change my time period. I'm going to run this for 60 minutes. So again, this is the same thing we did before. We're running our access messages with the get as a keyword. So I'm running it for the last 60 minutes. It's the same thing we did in the lab before. Okay, the next step, you've done that before already. Remember, we parsed out. All we did was highlight, right click, parse, and then create those field names. Okay, we did that already. So I'm going to run that for the last 60 minutes as well. Okay, what I want you to notice is after we ran that parse, we have no ability to display our results in a chart. We can't do a column chart, a bar chart, an arrow. We can't do anything. This next line of code is the key for us to display our output in the chart. We're using an aggregate. We're saying count by status code. And if we run that for the last 60 minutes, we can see in our results, we see that it's done. There's an elapsed time. There's my total results. I have my original messages tab, but this count by has generated an aggregates tab. Now I can see my status codes and the amount of messages from each status code, the amount of errors for each status code. Okay. Now over to the right here, I can see I have the ability to display my results in a different chart. So if I wanted to do a pie chart, voila, area chart, voila, and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and use a column chart though. Okay. And I see all of my status codes. Okay. All right. Now let's go back here. Did all of that. So the next thing we want to do now here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm still in the lab guide. I'm going to the next number 1. You and I want to find out the actual count of statuses over time. We want to use 1-minute buckets So we want to create 1 minute buckets to see how these error messages, how often did they occur in a 1 minute increment. So ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead under number 2. Let's copy the last 2 lines of code under number 2. Again, copy the last 2 lines of code under number 2. Let's go back to the CIP. Let's highlight the last line of code. Let's highlight that count by, highlight that, and paste over it. Okay. Now, just to kind of let you know, I'm going to comment out the count by. The time slice is not going to do anything for us until we get to an aggregates tab. So when I run this here, I don't get the time slice results that I'm expecting. When I take this comment off, you're going to see what I mean. Okay. So again, I still get my refer, my size, my status code, URL, and the message. Still get that even though I've added that time slice. Now, when I take this here comment off of the count by, I want to point out some things. Right. So if you read that, it says count by. Notice that all of our operators are in a different color. So that's the first thing to be aware of. It says count by, but it's using something called time slice. And if you notice the actual technique, it has an underscore in front of it, whereas our operator doesn't. So this is the technique that we use when we're in a count using one of our operators. We use the underscore. Okay, this acts as a placeholder. So we're counting by time slice and status code. Now, once we run this for the last 60 minutes, that time slice that we have in our third line of code here will make sense now. Okay. Now, let me make sure I put it in there. You got to make sure you're still in the actual table in order to get what I was saying. Okay. So again, the table icon is the second icon in case you're in a chart. So when we run that, we now see an aggregates tab and we see our time slice minute by minute. Now be aware that the time slice is not in any order. You remember that we can just click on the column header of our time and put it in a sort order. So right now I can look at it ascending, click it again, and I'm in descending order. Okay. All right. So we could of course display that in a line chart or a column chart. Okay. Now, if you notice here, I'm going to go back here to my lab guide here. So we've displayed all of our items. Again, we used the time slice. Next, we're going to use the transpose. You and I want to see that actual results to look similar to Excel, where we want to have columns and rows. We want to be able to identify any anomalies. So we want to analyze, identify trends, things of that sort. So we're going to go ahead and copy under number 1, under the transpose category. Let's copy number 1. Let's copy that. And let's go back to the CIP. I'm going to demonstrate a new technique that you haven't been aware of. You and I want to add a blank line. We want to add a blank row. Okay, so let's place our cursor at the end of the count by row. Place our cursor at the end of the count by. And on my keyboard, I'm using a Mac. So I'm going to use to add a new row, I'm going to use the Shift Return. You should be able to use the Shift Enter or the Alt Enter key if you're not on a Mac. And you should have a new row, a new line. Go ahead and paste in your transpose. And let's read what it says. So it's telling us, hey, Odell, I want to transpose. I want my time slice to be on my row. I want my status code to be on my columns. So that transpose, if we run that over the last 60 minutes, and again, make sure you're on your table because it won't make sense if you're not on the table. Okay. So on the table here, I can see I now have my time slice on my rows. I have my status codes on my columns, so I can do some analysis. I can identify trends and do some comparisons because I have this Excel-like look. Okay. All right. Awesome stuff. Going back to the lab guide. Let's now go ahead and create a chart, a visualization okay? We want to display our results as a column chart, okay? So again, you can just go ahead and click on the column chart icon. When you click on the column chart, ladies and gentlemen, you might notice that, remember our initial goal was to look at the 404s? Well, you and I know that 200s they're not bad. So if I click on my legend to hide the 200s, I'm no longer seeing those 200s. They were dominating my chart. Right now, my 304s are dominating my charts. Again, those are no major issues. So I want to hide those by clicking on my legend, the 304s. Now I can get down to some of the root causes, okay? Now that clicking, that's easy, that's awesome, that allows us to do that, it allows us flexibility, but maybe we want to hard code it. So let's go back and let's get that last line of code there, where it says where, under number 1, it says where the exclamation mark means not. So where status code is not 200, or where status code is not 304. So let's go ahead and copy that. Now we want to place this in a particular location in our query. So let's place our cursor on the line of the parse statement, at the end of the parse statement. Let's place our cursor there because we want to add a new row under that. So let's go ahead and use the Shift Return or Alt Enter, and let's paste. And we're telling it, hey, after you parse, filter out where you don't see any 200s or 304s. And let's go ahead and run that for the last 60 minutes. And you'll notice in our legend, instead of us having to toggle those off, they're no longer appearing because we actually use the where calls to filter them out. Okay. All right, going back to the lab guide. Wow, you guys are making excellent progress. You've completed part 3. You've aggregated your results. You've transposed your diagram to give you use the transpose operator, and you displayed your results in a chart. Okay. All right, let me just point out the chart legend, how you can change that. Again, we're seeing all of these blues and things this color. Maybe you want it to be a different color. So if you click on the gear symbol, in your aggregates tab, you can go to the change properties, and maybe you want to change to red. Okay, so now you have more of a redder choice. Again, going to the gear symbol, changing properties. Again, that'll allow you to change that. Okay. All right. All right, you can use the question is, what if I wanted to exclude any 3x? You could put that in quotes, or use an asterisk. Use an asterisk as a wild card. That'll work for you. Use the asterisk. Okay. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out some things that might appear on a test that we don't cover. Let me talk about this. All right. So on the messages tab, if you want to export out your results, on the messages tab, if you want to export out your results, you go to the gear symbol and you export out your results. That's on the messages tab. On the aggregates tab, when you have the table up, if you want to export out the values, the numbers, okay, you go to the actual first icon, export results. So again, on the aggregates tab, if you're on the table where you see all the numbers, you go to that very first icon, that'll export everything out for you, okay? In case that appears on an exam somewhere. All right, going back here. All right, let's go ahead and click on our create and share a dashboard in lab number 4. Okay, lab number 4. All right, so dashboards are a powerful forensic tool. Okay, it allows you to visualize your key searches and results. Okay, you and I are going to add a dashboard. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call it Apache status codes. So back to the CIP. Let me kind of let me tie this back to my demonstration. If you remember very early along in this class, I did a demo. I went to Slack, I clicked on a link in Slack, and it opened up a dashboard. One of the things that I mentioned was that 12 panel dashboard, each one of those panels has an underlying query. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, we built a query. We now want to build a dashboard. So let's go ahead together and click on Add Dashboard. It brings up a new window. We're going to go and call this Apache Status Codes. Okay. Now, when we click where it reads dashboards, what the tool is doing is going to find out all of the existing dashboards. So this would be the method you would use if you wanted to add a panel to an existing dashboard. Okay. We don't want to do that. We want to create a new dashboard. And let's go ahead and call this one Apache Status Codes as well. Okay, so we're going to call it Apache Status Codes. Whoops, let me go ahead and put it in uppercase so it will look kind of professional here. Apache _ status codes. And you'll notice as you start typing, it'll start filtering to something unique. Okay, and I'm just going to put my initials here. And once you get to a unique instance, it'll prompt you to create a new dashboard. Okay, so when you create that new dashboard, click on that link, create new dashboard. When you come to this screen, ladies and gentlemen, you want to turn off the create in dashboard and new UI. Turn that off for me. Okay, you see the name, the dashboard name, the name of the panel, the name of the dashboard, and you see where it's going to store it. So go ahead and click add. Now, when you do that, the tool by default brings up the dashboard and the panel that you just added to it. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're in an edit mode. How do you know that, Odell? Because the tool reads done editing. Okay, we're in an edit mode. Let's go ahead and digress for a moment. Let's click on these three dots here in the edit mode. It says more. Let's click on add panel. So here we're going to add a text panel. Okay, so we can just call it Apache Status Codes. If I can spell. And then we want to go ahead and also add some text. So we'll click on the radio button next to the word text. And we're just going to write in this panel displays status codes. Okay. And once we type in submit, we now have another panel. Now I can left mouse click and hold and drag, left mouse click and hold and drag to reorder them. I can go to the hash corners and resize them. Okay. I can go back to the three dots and click on the toggle theme. So I get a darker theme. Or if I want a lighter theme, I can go back to the three dots, toggle theme. I'm back to the lighter theme. Okay. I can click on the phrase done editing. Now, when I go to those three dots, I don't see those choices anymore. So in order to see those choices, I click on the pencil and now I'm in the edit mode and I can see those choices. Okay. All right, did that, add the text. All right, last thing we're going to do is share it. Okay, so again, I'm going to go back here. You can either go up if you're in the dashboard, you can go up to the main menu up in the top right corner and click on the share, or you can go into your personal folder and click on the share as well. Okay, once you click on the share, you of course can designate to your entire organization, to a specific role, or maybe to users, and then you could share. Okay. All right. Let's go back over here and get to this. We're almost done, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a little bit over here, but we're almost done. All right, so great job. You've completed part 4. You created a panel from your search results and you added it to a dashboard, a new dashboard. You added a text panel, you changed the look and feel of the dashboard, and you shared the dashboard. Okay, let's go to lab number 5. Again, click on lab number 5 for me. What we want to do in this demo is we want to go ahead and change a dashboard panel. Okay, we're going to demonstrate to you how you can change a dashboard panel without opening up a log search. Okay, so let's go back to our CIP. Make sure you're in your CIP. Go to your personal tab, personal folder. Go to your personal folder. Expand your Apache folder. Expand your Apache folder and click on the Apache overview dashboard. Again, you're in your personal folder, you're opening up the Apache folder that you saved, and you're going down to the Apache overview dashboard. Locate the visitor location panel, ladies and gentlemen. Locate the visitor location panel. That's the one with the map on it, okay? That panel has 3 dots in the top right corner of the panel. Click on the 3 dots of the top right corner of the panel and click on Edit. What this enables you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is update the actual query, run the query without opening up a new log search, okay? So what we want to do is we want to filter to only see the United States. So in your lab guide under number 3, we want to copy what's under number 3. We only want to filter the United States. So I'm going back to the CIP. This has to be in a specific location. It has to be after the lookup. So place your cursor at the end of the lookup statement, the lookup line. Place your cursor there. Add a new line. That's shift return or shift enter or alt enter. One of those 3 should work. You should have a new row at the bottom down there, bottom second from the bottom, and go ahead and paste. So again, we've added this filter under the lookup because the country name only would exist after the lookup brings it back. So that's another reason why we're adding it underneath it. Now we can run it by clicking on the blue magnifying glass. Once we run it, our diagram updates, we're only seeing where users are logging in from the United States. The last thing we need to do is update the dashboard. So just above the running, we want to update. So once we click on that, so we now have updated the dashboard without having to update the entire query or going to the log search. Okay. All right, so we did all of that. All right, last lab here, last lab, ladies and gentlemen, the last lab, number 6 here. We want to create an alert, okay? All right, let's go back to our CIP. So make sure you're still in your Apache overview. Make sure you're still looking and viewing and seeing the visitor location. We want to create an alert on this panel. So let's click on the 3 dots for the visitors location panel. And this time, let's open in a log search. Now, when we open in a log search, let's go over to the right where the icons are to the right of the blue run. And let's either click on Save As, the icon, or let's click on the 3 dots. And go ahead and click Choose Save As. Now, we're just going to go all the way down to the bottom of the Save As in the left corner and choose Schedule this search. Click on that. Right now, the search is never going to run. So if we click the drop down arrow, we can change the time period. Let's change it to maybe every 15 minutes. Let's maybe run every 15 minutes. Once we make that selection, we now see more options. So I want to change my time period to maybe the last 60 minutes. So I'm going to run it every 15 minutes for the last 60 minutes, okay? We have several types of alerting mechanisms. I told you that before. You can get alerted by email. You can create a webhook to create a Slack alert, or maybe you want to do a script action. Again, you have multiple alerting types. Okay. We're also going to turn on our results to be CSV. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to use some variables. So in your lab under number 6, you'll see a box that has some variables in them. And we're going to use those variables. Okay. We're going to go to where it reads email subject. We're going to highlight what's ever there and replace it with what we copied. Okay. You probably should add a recipient there, Odell. And then replace that there. Oh, I was stuck in here. Something's going on. All right, there you go. And paste. All right, did I lose connection here? Are you guys still with me? Yeah, okay. All right, so just wrapping up, mine is freezing for some reason. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. But you would save this, that would then run. Again, to turn it off, you of course are going to, let me refresh the page, maybe that's what it is. To turn it off, you're gonna change the schedule. Thanks, Mark. It works, I just refreshed the page though. Gets kind of sensitive, I've been working so hard. I've been working it so hard. So again, the thing, all we did here was we clicked on the save as, and that allowed us to create our item. All right. And again, to remind you how to turn this object off, you want to go ahead and go to the save as again. You go down to the schedule this item and you turn it off. Change it to none. Change it to none. Okay. All right. So schedule this item and change it to none. I don't know why mine is acting up, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. All right. So the last thing we're going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, back to our lab guide. I'm going to go over to lab 7. Lab 7 is really for you. It's informational. It's a reference page for you. All right, this is just love. Okay. Now on this lab guide, lab number 7, things I want you to be aware of. Again, if you need help, go out to our Sumo Logic help, get help. You can check out our release notes, go to our documentation hub, visit our learn page. You can post the questions in our Sumo Logic community. You can try our customer Slack channel, contact support. Okay, again, I'll leave this as a reference page. All right, any questions? Any questions at all? All right, so it's time for you to take your exam. All right. First thing you have to remember is you need to log out of our training environment. How do you log out? You go to the navigation panel, go down to the main menu, click on that environment and sign out. That's the first thing you need to do, okay? You can take the exam again. You can take the exam as many times as you like, ladies and gentlemen, as many times as you like, okay? Once you log out of our environment, you're gonna log into your company's environment. Okay. You're going to go to the home tab, of course. You're going to go to the certification link, click on get certified. Okay, once you click on get certified, you're going to click on get certified again. So once you get to this screen, you'll click on get certified. You and I have just completed the fundamentals. So you would click on the fundamentals exam, click on register. It's a quick click, you register. Okay. You click on start assessment. We have a ton of questions in our question bank. If you get this question, you might get it right. So it says, by default, legacy dashboards are created in interactive mode, which requires users to input in the auto refresh. If you need your dashboard to constantly update, set them to live mode. Okay, I'll go for it, true. Okay, if you have that question, I chose true. So you're gonna go through all 30 of the questions. You're gonna click next. You see, I got that one right, okay? The key thing I wanted you to see here, it tells you what you have right or wrong, okay? But it doesn't tell you the answer, okay? You're gonna click submit. Even if you didn't pass it, you're gonna submit and you can try it again, okay? All right. All right, so if there aren't any questions, on behalf of everyone here at Sumo Logic, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you in upcoming training courses. For those of you that are going to stay and take the exam, I will proctor exam for an hour. You have an hour to take the exam, open book, open manual, open internet, ask me as well. I will put in the actual Uber Eats as well. If you're not taking the exam right now, thank you for joining us. We're glad you joined us. Look forward to seeing you in upcoming training classes. You can take the exam at any time. Okay, it's free. And I'll put the link in here for Uber Eats. I'll do that as well. So I'm gonna stop talking. Good luck on the exam. I'll be here for an hour if you need any help. Thank you all.